doing? We had a good day at school. Yay, Sophia had a good day. Kwan, do you have a question?
I got kicked out.
You got kicked out from school?
No, not from school, but from the Zoom meeting.
Ooh, we might have accidentally admitted you in, and that's why. We just had to wait. We had some other kids before you guys also learning, so we had to wait for you guys. But now you're in, so it's all good. Did you have a good day at school?
Yes.
That's great. What are you guys doing for Halloween? What are we dressing up as? You guys can unmute this week.
I dress up as Harry Potter.
Harry Potter. That's great. That's a very classic costume. Sophia, what are you dressing up for Halloween?
As a hot dog.
A hot dog? That is so fun. Do you have a whole big costume, like the hot dog one? Or are you dressing up as like ketchup and mustard? That would be really cool too. But a hot dog is a very cool costume. Let's wait for some of our other friends to join. I think Neela is here.
I've seen other hot dog costumes. They're cozy.
Yeah, hot dog costume is very cool. Oh my God, Sophia, you had the Play-Doh from last time. You're still playing with it. That's great.
I was playing with it too.
You have yours too, Kwan. That's so nice. Hi, Neela. How are you doing? Did you have a good day at school? Good day. We're just waiting for some of our other friends to join if we'll have anyone. But what are you dressing up for as Halloween? For Halloween? What are you dressing up as?
I was dressing up as 11 from Stranger Things.
I see it. I see your costume now. I was just gonna say that. I love the dress, and 11 is great.
Thank
Hi,
you.
William. So we're just waiting for Miss Jess to set up the live stream, which we have.
I think we are good to go on the live stream front. So yeah, we'll go ahead and get started so that we've got plenty of time for questions and playing around with the game. Oh no, Zora goes back in the waiting room. Sorry guys, that was one of our students from our earlier group in K2, and she is just not quite comfortable on how to exit Zoom calls just yet. She is still learning. So we have to help her out by putting her in the waiting room sometimes. That is okay. Welcome all of you. I'm so glad to see all of you. As you notice, I'm actually on camera today. I'm not just working behind the scenes. That's because it's Miss Maya's birthday. So she decided to give herself a treat and be off. So I'm with y'all instead. So I'm so glad to be here. I know that we all learned a lot about stem cells with Miss Priyashi yesterday. Can I get a thumbs up if everyone remembers what we talked about yesterday? Awesome. So we're all ready and prepared to meet our speaker today. So we have Dr. Adam MacLean here with us today. He is a professor at USC and he knows all about stem cells. So I'm going to let him tell you all about it.
Cool. Thank you. Hi, everyone. My name is Adam MacLean. I'm a professor at USC, which means I do research into stem cells as well as teaching college students, big kids, almost grown-up kids. So yeah, today I'm going to tell you a bit about what I do as a scientist and a bit more about stem cells. It's great if you remember a little bit from before, but we're going to cover the basics again. And if you have questions for me, raise your hands. I'm really happy to answer them as we go along. So let's see, where should we begin? So you can maybe hear from my voice, I've got an accent. I wasn't born in California, I was born in Scotland, fairly far away across an ocean, the Atlantic Ocean. And yeah, I've been at school for a really long time, 30 years actually, if I'm counting. So through all that time, I've been learning about different parts of science. I started studying math when I was in school, and then I went off to college where I studied physics. I kept going, studying math and physics, and then finally started to get interested in biology and stem cells, which is what I'm still working on today. In terms of that path for me, how I became a scientist, I will say that I always was very curious. I always liked asking questions. And I guess I did like math at school. But to be honest with you, I didn't know what I wanted to be when I grew up. And I think that's okay. In my opinion, you don't have to have a plan. Basically, what I did is figure it out as I went along, one step at a time. I kept going and going, and I decided, well, I keep liking school, so I just kind of never left. And here I am now. I'm a professor. So let's get started, and I'm going to share some slides and talk to you a bit more about what I do in research. Unless you have any questions about me before we get started. I don't see any raised hands. Okay, so let's see. Stem cells and computational biology. Hopefully, you remember a little bit about stem cells, but you might not recognize that word, computational biology. We'll go through all of it. What does that mean? Okay, so first question is, what is a stem cell? Do you have any ideas? Would anyone like to tell me your ideas?
Sophia has her hand raised, and then we can go to Kwan.
A stem cell is a special kind of cell found in humans' bodies.
Yes, that is true. It's a special cell. It's found in humans, and it's found in a lot of other animals too. Are there any other suggestions?
Yes, Kwan, you can speak.
Like stem cells are building blocks. Like building blocks. Like I thought that stem cells are like a cell that connects to like different cells, other stuff.
Yeah, that's a really good. That's definitely a part of it. I really like that. Stem cells, they are building blocks. They really are helpful in making up all the cells that make up our bodies. Are there any other suggestions? Okay, so stem cells are special, and stem cells are building blocks. And the first really important thing that they do is they make other types of cell. Because stem cells, a little bit like kids, they haven't really decided what job they're going to do when they grow up. And stem cells, and most cells do one job, okay? Their job might be to be brain, or it might be to be blood or bone or tissue. These are all types of cell that live in your bodies. The stem cells are special because they make all of those other types of cell. And that's their most important number one job, is making the specialized cells that do specific jobs in your bodies. And they have one other really important feature that makes them special. So the first thing stem cells do is make the cells in your bodies, like blood and bone and brain, that do specific jobs. And the second thing that makes a stem cell special is that they live forever. So that means they can keep on dividing and dividing and making more of themselves for as long as you live. And that's different from other cells. So here in the picture, the first two types of cell, blood and brain, they can't divide at all. They can't even divide once. Once they've become specialized, blood cells and brain cells, that's it. They have to stop where they are. Then there are these other types of cells like muscle or white blood cells, immune cells that fight off infections. Those cells can divide a few times, maybe once or twice or 3 times, but eventually they have to stop dividing. They die and they get recycled in your bodies. But stem cells are different. Stem cells are special because they can keep dividing and dividing and dividing slowly, but continuously to make more of themselves and more special cells that make up your bodies for as long as you live. Now, the next question I would ask is, where do stem cells live in your body? So there are stem cells in babies that are developing before they're born. Embryonic development is the process of how you form a baby before it's born. And sometimes when people think of stem cells, they think of those ones, the ones at the very beginning of life. And that is one type of stem cell, but there actually are a lot of different sorts of stem cell. They're not just in developing babies, but they're also in kids and grown-ups in all different parts of the body. And here in this picture, all these different parts of the body, the brain and the skeleton, the skin and the blood, all of these different parts have their own special population of stem cells, making more of those cells in that organ. So that's an introduction to what stem cells are, what they're doing, and where they live in the bodies. So what do I do? My job as a scientist is to study how stem cells do their job being how they make all the different cells that we need in our bodies. To answer these questions about stem cells, I use computers. I use computational biology. And now I am going to tell you a bit about what that means, because you might not have heard of computational biology or how we use computers at all to study cells. Are there any questions before I go on to that, on stem cells? Okay, then I'll stop sharing my screen for a minute. And I'd like to show you a little bit of this book. Now, I don't know if anybody's seen this book before. Have you seen this book before? Yes, at least one person.
Sophia has a question or something to say, and Quan
Well,
too.
I have a comment that well, in my school, they were passing out books like those.
Great. Yeah,
Quan,
and maybe
you
some
have
other
something
people.
to say too?
I've seen one of those books before, and I think I have it. What does it say? Oh, data science.
Yeah,
Yeah, I have it.
you do. Great. Great, that's really good. So I'm not going to read the whole book, but I would like to read a little bit of it because it actually gives a really good explanation about what it means to do research using computers. So this book is by another professor at USC, a friend and a colleague of mine, Professor Stacey Finley, and she does research using computers into data science and cancer. She also studies cells, just like stem cells that I study. She studies cancer cells. So let's have a little look about this book. And maybe some of you have read some of it before. It's okay if you haven't seen it before. I'm going to start at the beginning. It's a book about Cora, the explorer, and her friend Bonnie, the butterfly. Oh, you have it. Cool. So you can follow along at home. Cora grabs her laptop and slides it into her backpack. She has a look of excitement on her face. What are you thinking about? Asks her friend, Bonnie the butterfly. I just heard of something so amazing. I have to go and check it out for myself, says Cora. Do you want to come? Oh, yes, says Bonnie. I love adventures. Where are we going? Well, says Cora, I heard that data science can help people make better decisions about, well, everything from medicine to the environment around us. So we're going to visit a special research laboratory that focuses on data science. Wow, says Bonnie, that should be interesting. Let's go. Cora and Bonnie arrive at the Big Data Supercomputer Center. This is a nice building, Bonnie whispers, but it doesn't look special. Oh, just wait, says Cora with a smile. This is where all the magic happens. They step inside and follow signs to the high-performance computing cluster. Standing outside the room, Cora and Bonnie hear the hum of many, many computers. They look through the door and they see rows and rows and rows of black metal boxes all the way from the floor to the ceiling. They look like the most powerful computers you've ever dreamed of. And the room is dark. So all you can see is lots and lots of flashing, blinking lights on the computers. Wow, says Bonnie. It looks and it sounds like these computers are working in overdrive. All that humming sounds like a beehive. Yes. Data scientists are using these computers to analyze their data. The computers examine all the different parts of the data that the scientists send, Cora explains. Bonnie looks around, but I don't see any people here. The room is empty. That's right. That's one of the cool things about data scientists, says Cora. They can work in their offices far away and in their research laboratories, and they can send their data here to where the computers are. So I hope you can see that picture of the room, strange, dark room filled with black boxes that are computers just without screens, all the way from floor to ceiling. And that looks just like my lab where we build computer models to understand stem cells. And now I'm going to share my screen again.
Juan has a question, actually.
Sure. Fun.
Actually, I have a comment that like about like these pages, like it has like fun fact, fun fact.
Did any of those fun facts stand out? Were any of them really interesting to you?
Yeah, they're interesting.
Great. I'm glad to hear that.
I got all these books.
Great.
Alright.
Okay, so now let's go back here. And now you've seen a picture of what it looks like to have huge computers that build special models, but we haven't really answered the question about what does it mean to use these computers to study cells, to study stem cells? So let's think about that. What is this computational biology? I've got two pictures for you. The first picture is of what I'm going to call the old biology, how biology was before. Okay? There are two things in this picture, two circles, purple one and a green one, and they're connected by one arrow. Oops. That's the picture of biology beforehand, old biology. And now I'm going to show you the second picture of new biology. Here it is. This is the new biology. And I'd like you to tell me, what do you think are the most obvious differences between these pictures? Does anyone have an idea?
Yeah, Sophia, and then we can go Neela and then Kwan.
Sophia?
The new biology has way more information and ovals.
Has way more. Mm-hmm.
Neela, you can say what you say your answer now.
The old one is more simple, and then the new biology is like more detailed.
That's a great answer.
And Kwan, what did you have to say about the difference?
They have different colors, and like some, like old biology, sometimes they could like break, like commercially break, I think. And I think some are stem cells and some are just cells.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I haven't really told you. I've been a bit sneaky. I haven't really told you what the things in the picture are, right? They might be cells. They might be even smaller parts than cells, like molecules that exist inside cells. And the answers that detailing how many more things there are in the new biology and how much more detailed it is, how much more complicated because of all the different parts, there are more different colors, right, in the new picture than in the old one. And there are more colors, more parts, and more arrows connecting them. And that's the really important difference between the old and the new. And why this matters is because when we think about old biology, we were able to study that using experiments, like looking at a cell under a microscope or cutting it up and seeing what was inside. But that's no longer true because the picture is so big, so detailed, there are so many different parts, then we can't just use equipment like microscopes to make sense of it all anymore. It's too complicated. There's too much going on. And that's why we have to use computers. We have to make models just to make sense of what's going on inside a cell and how stem cells work. Here I'm showing you some pictures of different sorts of things that we can measure using biological equipment. These are different sorts of biological data. The ones at the top, well, this is a picture you take with a microscope, right, with a camera. And you look at cells and where they are inside your bodies. You can color different parts of the body, different tissues, different colors. This is one type of data we can gather. You can also track single cells or even molecules inside cells. You can track them over time and watch where they're going at the right, at the top. Or you can measure how things grow over time at the bottom. Okay, and the number of things that we can measure, again, in a single experiment is growing very fast, bigger and bigger and bigger. And that leads to being able to measure so many things at once, as I'm showing in the picture at the bottom. All these different dots show a different thing that we can measure. And they go in with the data set that we end up with is so big, again, that we can't analyze it without computers. We really, really need them. We can't do anything anymore without them. So, okay, we need them to study cells. We know some idea about what stem cells are and what these big computers are that we're going to use. So when I actually build a computer model of cells, what does it look like and what does that tell us? So these are some example simulations of what different populations of cells do over time. These are different populations of interacting cells in your body. And here you can see how they change, the different cell populations change over time. They might grow, there might become more cells, or they might shrink, there might become fewer and fewer. And we can study these, this is directly based on our computer model. We can change, for example, how many cells there are to begin with. Do we start with 5 cells or 10? And we ask, what happens next? That's all it is. So what do the models tell us? They tell us how cell populations change over time, what happens to the stem cells. And they give us predictions that we can go and do experiments on to test. Okay, but there's one problem that I haven't told you about yet. Biology is what we call noisy. And really what that means in this context, I'm using the word in a strange way, it means random. Noisiness in biology means randomness. So can you give me some examples of things that you think are random? It can be anything that's random.
Yes, William.
Oh, the possibility of having chest. Like, there's one possibility that you're gonna get a diamond, and another possibility that you're gonna get a nether. But let's assume there's 500,000 opportunities. So, how every time you open that chest, there'll be a random item. So you can almost never really predict it.
Great. Nice example. Thank you. Any
Juan
other?
also has one.
Random cards from Monopoly.
Yeah. If you're playing a game, right, and you have to take a card, you don't know what you're going to pick before you choose. That's random. How about?
Neela has one too.
Like maybe when you're studying the stem cell, there's like a different type of germ that you don't know of.
There's a different type of. Sorry, can you say that again?
When you're studying a stem cell, there could be like a different type of germ or disease that you don't know of.
Yes, definitely. There could be something else that you don't know about. Like maybe there's a germ and you didn't know that it entered into your body. These are really great examples. These are all things that are random, and there's a difference, right? If you talk about a game, a card game, that's random, but it's not biology, right? It's not about our bodies and how we are made up. But this example about germs, well, this is about us, right? This does change us. It changes whether or not we're healthy or if we get sick and what happens next. And a couple other examples might be the weather. You look out the window, is the sun shining? That's something random. But it turns out that biology is full of this randomness. It's really hard to predict. You don't know exactly how many cells there are going to be, and you don't know what they're going to do. And we want to include that randomness, that noise, in our models of what stem cells do. So now I'm going to show you what that looks like when we include noise in our models. This is the same sort of simulations with randomness. So how have they changed?
Neela, I see your hand up. You can answer. And then we can do Sophia.
They changed because the second one is going more lower to the 100 and 300 and 200, and then the first one is like kind of more far away.
Yeah.
Sophia. Yeah.
It changed by the noise. The second one is it's more together.
More together. And how do the lines look before? If we go back here, the lines, they're quite smooth, right? They're not bumpy. You can see them changing quite slowly. Compared with here, do the lines look smooth or do they look bumpy? Right, here they look really bumpy, almost like zigzaggy. And that bumpiness in how many cells there are in your body at any one time, that is the effect of the noise. And that's one really useful thing that we can take computer models to help us with, is understand that randomness of the cells that are inside us. Okay, so let's just summarize what we've talked about in this introduction. So your body is full of cells, many different types. Most of them do specific jobs like blood or skin or bone. But there are some, the stem cells, that have this special job to do of making all those cells and living forever. And to do lots of things just to understand our body's work, but also to make new medicines to treat different conditions, we need to understand how all of these cells work better. And to study how all cells work, especially stem cells, we need computers because of how many different things we can measure, how big the data are. And that work of modeling on computers is called computational biology. With these computer models, we're able to study many different scenarios than we'd be able to look at just through experiments. And we can predict which ones are most likely.
Thank you, Dr. MacLean. I think now we can go through the questions from yesterday.
Sure.
Miss Jess, I think, has the questions from yesterday, and or Miss Nandini, one of us can do
I
it.
do indeed. So Sophia asked, what is your favorite stem cell and which stem cell is the hardest to study?
Oh, I really like that question. My favorite stem cell is the blood stem cell. And it lives inside your bones in what's called the bone marrow. If you've ever heard of a bone marrow transplant, what they're actually giving patients to make them better is blood stem cells. And they're very small and very rare. They're hard to find, but they do this really amazing and important job of making many, many different types. There's actually many different types of blood. It's kind of complicated system. There's the blood cells, the ones that are red, but there are these other types of white blood cells and all sorts of things. They're involved with fighting off germs and healing your wounds when you fall and get a scrape. Now, which stem cells are the hardest to study? Oh, that's great. It depends, really, on what sort of questions we're asking. If we think about the blood stem cells that I really like, because I work on those and I think they're really cool, in some ways they're really easy to study because it's quite easy to look at our blood. It's easier to take blood samples than it is to look at your bones, for example. But on the other hand, the really difficult thing is that if you think about the skin, everything stays in one place, right? It's fixed. But if you think about the blood, everything is moving around. It's flowing. And so that makes it really hard because when everything is moving around, it's hard to keep track of the different cells, where they are and where they're going. So in some ways, it's easy to study because it's accessible, but in other ways, it's really hard. And there's still so much we haven't figured out, even though a couple more facts about blood stem cells. It was the first stem cell ever to be discovered experimentally. So it's been studied for many, many, many years, longer than I've been alive, but there's still so much that we don't know about them.
All right, awesome. We have another one here. This is actually from Victoria, and we didn't get to it in the last section, which is where she usually is, but it's a very good one, and I'm really curious for us all to know the answer is how many stem cells do we have?
Great question. So again, it it matters. We need to think about where we're looking in the body. So because we had that slide, right, where I told you there's different stem cells for different organs, different tissues in your body. There's a population of stem cells in the skin, and a population in your bones, and a population, of course, in your blood, in your bone marrow, producing your blood. So overall, stem cells are rare. So you've got very few compared to how many cells there are in your body. So there's approximately 100 trillion cells in your body, which is such a big number that it's just very hard to even imagine. But I can tell you, for the blood stem cells, we have a fairly good estimate. And the number we say, more or less, is 10,000. So 10,000 total blood stem cells. It might sound like a big number, but when you think about that up against millions and billions and trillions, they're actually really rare.
Yeah. So I know Miss Maya has talked about some pretty big numbers when she was talking about astrobiology. So a trillion would be, correct me if I'm wrong here, Dr. MacLean, but a 1 with 9 zeros after it.
Yep.
And then 10,000 is only a 1 with 4 zeros after it. So that is a big difference. Yeah, Sophia, that is the correct face. That is a big difference. And then Juan and Alejandro had different but related questions. Juan wanted to know what your favorite body part was, and Alejandro wanted to know what your favorite organ was.
Okay, well, I better stop saying blood, even though I think it's really cool and it is an organ. But let's see. So, you know, I am really fascinated by our bones, our skeleton, right? And it's very also topical. You'll probably see a lot of skeletons around the neighborhood this weekend. But yeah, no, that we have stem cells producing our bones, and we understand much less about them. And I said we already don't know a lot about how the blood stem cells work, right? We know so much less about how stem cells produce bone. And imagine if we could control them, right? That's the goal, is to control these stem cells so that we can make more. Then if you broke your arm, we'd pop in some new bone stem cells, and instead of having that ridiculous cast on or whatever, you would just make new bone in the right spot and you would be fixed in no time. And that's the goal of a lot of scientists who work on stem cells, is fixing you up by making new bone or new muscle, whatever gets injured. There was a second part. What was the second part?
Your favorite, well, I think that counts as both. It was favorite body part and favorite organ. I would say that your bones can count as both of those things, right?
Okay, I have one more answer, I guess, and I don't know, you might not think of this, but it is an organ. What's the biggest organ? And it is really cool. It's maybe not what you're thinking of. It's the skin. The skin is an organ. It has stem cells. It's very useful. Otherwise, all our bits inside would fall out. It's true. And also germs would get in. The skin is our barrier between the inside and the outside, and it's a really great organ. It does that job very well most of the time. And wound healing is just crazy, isn't it? You get a scratch, and then it just goes away. So the skin is also really cool.
It is very cool. I agree with you. All right. Well, if we stop with questions for just a second, I think we should have plenty of time to explore the simulation if you wanted to do that, Dr. MacLean, and then maybe we can get to some more questions at the end.
Sure.
What do you think?
Sure. Oh, there's one hand.
Oh yeah, William, do you have a question?
I was crossing my fingers because I need to go to the bathroom.
Oh, well, you can please go ahead and do that, and we'll be here when you get back.
Cool. Okay, so sure, let's have a little look at a real computer model of the blood.
We're gonna do this along with Dr. MacLean right now, and then I will put the link in the chat if you want to try it on your own. Okay, guys?
Here we are. Okay, let's go back to the start. So this is a game called Stem Cell Superhero. This is the strawberry superhero. And the goal of the game is to make her happy by making sure that she's got enough of all the right types of cell that make blood. Okay? Stem cells and blood cells. And where do all these cells live? They live inside your bones, in the middle of the bones, in the bone marrow. So what we can do, this is a real model that we use in research, and I'm showing the same data 3 different ways. These bar plots and these, this is the data I usually look at, how these change over time. Okay, you can look at different points in time and see whether or not the stem cell superhero is happy. Right now, she's not, right? So that's a problem. So what are we going to do? How are we going to change the computer model to try to make her happy? Well, we can make more stem cells or more red blood cells. And it looks, if you see, look at the picture now, it looks like we don't have enough of either. So let's start. Let's first start to increase the number of stem cells. Okay. So you can see the number of blue stem cells is increasing and the number of red blood cells is increasing. And now our stem cell superhero, her mood is improving. Okay? It's so. And you can see that over time, you see the population of red blood cells starts to grow. In the early times, there's only a few cells. But as you go along and along, things get better and better. And let's see what happens if we increase the production even more. Now we're really filled the bone marrow with red blood cells, and we have enough blue stem cells to keep making those red blood cells over time. And that makes our stem cell superhero happy. And this is a game, but this is exactly what my real models that I use in research look like. Just like this, where we change things like how fast cells grow or how many they are. And we look at the implications. We look at what happens, what that means for us, for the stem cells in our bodies, or for something else. If you have the link, you can also try it for yourselves.
Everyone should have the link now.
Great.
Put it in the chat. And Dr. MacLean, is this the only way to make the STEM superhero happy, or are there multiple scenarios in which the STEM superhero would be end up being happy?
So to make this superhero happy, there have got to be enough stem cells and enough red blood cells, right? Because you need red blood cells right now to keep oxygen flowing around your body, but you need stem cells later to make more red blood cells. So if either the stem cell population is too low, the one that's making all your useful cells, or if your red blood cell population is too low and you just don't have enough in your body, either one of those scenarios is a problem. You need both to be satisfied to keep her happy.
Okay. Well, I look forward to hearing about whether you all are able to figure out the state that makes her happy, and maybe see if your parents or your siblings can figure it out too. Maybe you can show them how it works, everyone. Does anyone have any other questions for Dr. MacLean before I hand you back over to Ms. Priyashi for our post-test? Nilo, what did you eat that has your tongue that bright pink?
Lollipop.
So it
Nice.
looks like we don't have
Oh,
any
so-
questions.
Sophia, was that a hand or were you just moving yourself around?
I was stretching.
Oh, okay.
So we're gonna do our post-test exercise. Do you remember how yesterday's lesson we did the what are stem cells at the very beginning? So we're going to do that